technically, cannabis seeds are considered federally as hemp, which means they're totally legal to buy online. And I'm going to explain to you how. I myself have just barely learned that, it was so legal, actually, even on a federal level. I've bought seeds twice online before, and I really want to share this because I think that the more people who grow on their own and learn, the more our culture can grow and evolve. And now it's like waking up to a whole new world every day. To save you from some of my frustration and some of the hassle and maybe some time trying to look for seeds, I want to share with you my experiences. So looking up the legality of it, I came across on YouTube this guy's channel, and it's called Cannabis Legalization News. Now, it seems pretty promising. It had a great one about seeds. This guy's very articulate, affluent, and very educated. He's even a lawyer, so I really suggest checking this out. I know for one, I'm going to be following this and watching it very closely. Let me know what you guys think, or if you have any other suggestions for this kind of stuff. I'd love to hear it. Back on point, he basically pointed us to the 2018 Farm Bill. Now, what this bill does is it draws a clear and definite line between the terms of cannabis and hemp. And as you can see here, it defines any part of the cannabis plant that has less than this percentage of THC to be hemp. What this means is now at this point, the federal government doesn't even consider seeds, the part of the cannabis plant, to be cannabis. Since scientifically, you can't tell the difference between a seed that is going to grow into a THC producing cannabis plant or a seed that is going to grow into a hemp cannabis plant. Seeds also have literally 0.000% THC, literally none, so they don't even count as cannabis federally. Now, it gets into a lot of tricky mumbo jumbo because they're not going to come out and say right on that seeds are available online and anybody can buy them federally. There's also the point that you have to look into your state regulations, which the lawyer does discuss. He concludes that the feds are not searching or busting or even regulating the seed market. They are leaving it all up to the states to regulate their own seed markets. So I dove into my own state's regulations to try to learn everything. Learned about transferring it and all about growing more than I already had, just a little bit more. It was a lot to go through, a lot of mumbo jumbo. I went through a couple of pages with all the distribution, but here's the thing, it all talked about cannabis and nothing about seeds really. So I decided to type in like hemp seeds, and it just took me to a similar hemp article, which again, just like the 2018 Farm Bill, kind of danced around the legality of seeds in an even more beat around the bush kind of way. So amongst all the gray areas in the transference laws, it talked about weights of cannabis, and that's really where the key is through all this gray area is seeds don't weigh anything hardly at all. 100 seeds is like 1.5 grams to 2 grams. You're not going to get busted or put away for that. And then if you're buying seeds on an industrial scale, still, technically there's no THC in them. So there is literally no weight of cannabis that you are carrying, technically. So just look into your state's specific cannabis regulations just to make sure there's not anything different than all this other mumbo jumbo. And I think we're good, and I've explained this to you faster than I thought I could have. And I hope you remember that I mentioned I bought seeds online earlier, and I wanted to share that experience with you to save some frustration and time. So the first time, I was just barely getting onto the online stuff, and people told me about seed banks, and I looked up a couple, and they seemed very similar, had a lot of the same brands and stuff, and it was kind of a variety overload. But it had its benefits. It had a lot of bonus seeds depending on the more you bought, so I could buy a lot of different ones, and I got some extras thrown in, so there was good variety, a little bit of extra, but I did have to pay some money to make sure that my stuff got to me discreetly and without being detained. Now that was about 2 years ago. And the second time was more of an elaborate effort. I was searching for a very specific strain. So I had to look and research for stuff about where the strain came from, who bred it, and look into any other genetics that I could find of it. Being one of the most unique and my favorite strains, I really sought hard to try to find a good deal on it and to even find its availability. I found the growers who had produced it originally, and they were still marketing and selling the seeds. But their online listing was all kinds of links to other seed sellers or resources, and it was really hard to find a small batch of seeds I could buy that were reasonably priced. I spent hours checking each and every one of those links and comparing all the prices until I finally buckled down and bought one. I got a family pack from Mass Hydroponics and a couple stickers and a pen, and it was a pretty sweet little kit. I write with this pen quite often, and I am so glad to have a hold of these genetics. But again, it was an ordeal. And I know I talk a lot, and I'm very critical about knowing a lot about growing and the safety behind it, but I hope that I don't scare anyone or intimidate anyone away from trying it on their own. This naturally is a weed. It naturally grows really fast, really easy. Hardest part is overwatering it and all these technical issues, which I even have trouble with myself, and everybody does at some point. So I want to go through on my next video and do a review of seed sites. I have one in particular I'm going to do a review of, and I have a discount code to give you at the end of that. So please reach out to me with your questions. I really would love to engage and answer any of them. Please like, share, follow, or support me on my Patreon or here. And with that, I want to reach out and give any compassion I can to anybody out there who may be having a hard time, knows somebody who's having a hard time, or is trying to help somebody get through a hard time. I hope you find the courage in yourself to come out with us all and trust yourself and trust other people and help us all work on this together and stay gold.